welcome to Series 3 of Real. I'm Chelsea.
And I'm Damo.
This series of Real, we're looking into the theme of sustainability and what that means to us. Now, Damo, what do you think when you hear the word sustainability?
I think the first thing that pops into my mind is trying to survive a whole week just on 2-minute noodles.
Well, you're on the money with that idea. Sustainability can take many forms, even if it is only trying to survive on mee goreng for a whole week. It's actually a great example of what it means to be sustainable.
So I guess sustainability is a form of endurance or maintenance.
Yeah, right. It can be on the small scale, like lugging out your recycling every week, or it can be on the large scale, like changing your business practices so they're more enviro-friendly. Like La Trobe Uni, for example, they've actually created their own power station that generates enough electricity to run 5,000 homes.
Or like 200,000 hours of me watching the footy.
Something like that, Damo. Well, perhaps we should get the show going.
Yeah, let's do that. Tonight, we're looking into the idea of food sustainability and how to be enviro-friendly. At a time when being a foodie is a new form of celebrity and being green is the latest buzzword, sustainable food practices are gaining more and more popularity, especially in Melbourne.
The team at Real wanted to know if being environmentally conscious is something that people think about when they consume food. So we went out into the field to find out how people view food sustainability. Here's what we found.
Probably try and grow as much produce as I can. Consume sustainable portions of food.
I catch public transport every day.
Yep.
I don't drive.
I recycle and I put all my rubbish in the trash can.
Well, I sold the car 3 weeks ago, so I catch the train every day now.
I try to use public transport. I try to cut my energy use. I try to recycle household products. Try to cut and not use the car too much.
Well, I guess it's only fair to put the question to you now, Damo. Do you ever consider the environment when you choose your food?
No, I suppose I don't. I eat pizza and leave the scraps. I don't eat the crust. But I could do more, I suppose. That's the problem, I guess. It's all very well to say you help the environment, but in the most part, it's only on the small scale.
But there's definitely some people taking it large scale though, Damo. Just take the Life Skills program for an example. They're an organisation working actively with students who have disabilities to help them obtain diplomas and workplace experience. They've also grown an organic garden, which is a part of something called the Seed to Feed program. The students grow their own veggies, which are then used to create delicious vegetarian food for the Life Skills Cafe.
I know that cafe. But you know, Chelsea, I'm more of a Parma guy and veggie's not really my thing, but I'm sure their veggie stuff is really good. So the Life Skill guys are all about teaching sustainability and making sure what they actually teach goes into practice.
That's exactly it, practicing what they preach. Well, let's take a look and see just what the program involves.
I'm Dick Umbers, coordinator of a number of programs here with Life Skills. The garden at the moment, or Seed to Feed as it's called, is essentially to link produce with the cafe that exists in the Agora, so that students get the opportunity to plant a variety of seeds and in essence watch them grow. They then have the opportunity of doing the harvest and preparing a range of herbs. We have garlic herbs and parsley, and this little fellow sneaking through in here is rosemary. They're then taken off to the Life Skills Cafe. Well, I think it provides an opportunity for students to know and understand that you can grow a significant amount of produce in a fairly confined area. Every week, a beautiful basket full of produce goes to the cafe, proving that gardens can be sustainable.
I wish I could garden like that, Chelsea. I had a bonsai once and it died within about a week.
You obviously do not have any level of green thumb like those guys did, Damo.
I definitely don't.
Well, don't fret too much about that, because after the break, we'll be chatting to Dr. John Morgan. He's an expert in plant ecology, and not only will he tell us how food production impacts the environment, he might also be able to give Damo over here a few gardening tips.
I hope so. We'll see you after the break.
Welcome back. Now, we've got Dr. John Morgan in the studio, who runs the Plant Ecology Lab at La Trobe University. He's in to chat to us about some of the facts behind environmental sustainability. Welcome to the Green Couch, John. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure to be here.
Thank you. So being in charge of the lab means that you see what effects land degradation can have on the environment. What long-term effects do us humans and animals have on the environment?
Good question, but the way to answer that is to think about the evolutionary history of Australia. We've come to a country that's had very few humans on it and very few grazing animals. And we've transported a European agricultural system to a place that hasn't had large congregating animals like sheep and cows. It hasn't had the sort of a volcanic eruption processes and the glaciation that's occurred in Europe. And that's really, really important because those processes create new soils, really fertile soils. So our main issue here really is we've tried to impose a system on a country that basically doesn't support such a system.
So bringing all of those grazing animals over in such large numbers, as you said, what effect does grazing have on natural plant life in Australia?
So the biggest impact of grazing animals in Australia is principally by what we call selective grazing. So they pick out all the really palatable things. So if you think of things like orchids, daisies, lilies, those things get selected for really, really significantly. And because they've got no history of ever being grazed by animals, they don't know how to respond to that. So Australia has one of the worst environmental sort of degradation histories simply because the environment here hasn't got a mechanism to support that sort of grazing. We've compacted soils, we've destroyed what are called biological soil crusts. So across most Australian soils, they're not bare, they're actually covered by mosses and lichens and cyanobacteria, so things that are really important for holding soils together. And you come along with little grazing animals with their little hard hooves at really huge densities, and that's completely destroyed. And so one of the reasons grazing in particular, but agriculture more generally, has had a huge impact in Australia is it's caused lots of soil loss. And so that's a really profound impact because we've almost got no soils here to start with, and we've been losing them at rates that far exceed anything that nature would normally, impact on them.
Yeah. Is it something that nature and I guess Australian soils and the environment can adapt to, or is it something that just gets worse and worse and, where to for the future for Australia?
In terms of getting soil back, once you lose soil, you can't get soil back overnight. So the soils are formed over millions of years, and in 200 years, potentially, we've reduced, many soils down to bedrock. So you'd actually have to say in some areas of Australia, we've basically pushed the system so hard that it can't recover from that.
And if we talk about Victoria more specifically, how does Victoria compare to other states in conservation efforts or trying to keep up with that?
Victoria probably leads Australia, if not the world, in looking at how to recover or how to slow down these processes and then turn them around. So for a long time, Victoria's had tree clearance laws, and this was in response to massive land clearance in the 1960s. And it now has laws in place that mean that when you want to clear land for agriculture or urbanisation, you have to offset that loss somehow. So Australia is leading the world in that sort of field. We're also leading the field, I guess, in thinking about recovering landscapes, so tree planting initiatives, land care. There are lots of initiatives. So I would say that Victoria is actually leading Australia. The other states are catching up, but Victoria is leading the way in how to do a better sustainable land use of its kind of native systems.
Well, we've tried to build ourselves a sustainable community in this little studio. I know our plants haven't impressed you much, but do you like the plants we've put in?
I love your plants because the fact is you have plants, and plants are the lifeblood of the planet, giving off oxygen and storing carbon. So it's unfortunate you've got a weed in front of us here, which would be a threat to local bushland. We've got an orange here that's showing nutrient deficiencies, which is actually symptomatic of growing European plants in Australia because of the low fertility of the soils. So you're actually capturing really well what some of the problems are in trying to develop sustainable and environmentally friendly landscapes.
Right, so we're actually doing the reverse. We're not very sustainable at all, are we?
You're going to be heading in the right direction because of new knowledge.
Okay, wonderful. Well, that's what we hope to get from this interview. So I think we're running out of time, but thank you so much for joining us.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure having you here. So John Morgan from La Trobe University. I guess now we'll go to our next segment, which goes even deeper into sustainable practices, hopefully deeper than we've gone here, taking a behind-the-scenes look into East Brunswick's Centre for Education and Research in Environmental Strategies. Now there's a mouthful. The centre is all about teaching city dwellers urban farming techniques. We went down to the farm to check it out.
We're here today to talk to Judy Glick, the Partnership Manager of the Ceres organisation. We're going to find out a little bit more about what they do, their Sustainable Schools program, and an insight into what we can do to achieve a sustainable future and why it matters.
How does Ceres support a culture and a community? First of all, we're free. Anyone can come in and wander around and enjoy Ceres, read the signs. We have a market and a shop. We sell food, prepared food in the cafe and in the Merry where we've got catering. The food is sourced from organic and local, and we try to grow quite a bit of it ourselves, the food that we sell in the market. And we also have a thing called Fair Food, which is a food box delivery system, and we guaranteed organic farmers a certain income because we'll guarantee them the customers. So it's strengthening the organic farming sector, and it's also allowing people to receive really good quality food straight to their homes.
Built on a decommissioned rubbish tip, Ceres is now an eco-oasis, creating a rich sense of community through its own organic farm, frequent events promoting sustainability, and has become Australia's largest deliverer of environmental education.
So the Sustainable Schools program is where Ceres educators go into schools and work with the teachers, so it's a train-the-trainer process, working with the whole school on their energy use, water use, waste production, minimising it of course, and biodiversity. And it's integrated into the curriculum, but also real changes are made that can be measured, on the meter. So it's quite a deep and very, very powerful program.
That's a great initiative by the Ceres team. Well, we're going to take a short break and be back after this.
Welcome back to Real. Now, during the break, Chelsea and I were just chatting about what it would be like to eat sustainably all the time. I mean, it's all very well and good to use organic food, but what about permanently changing your eating habits? I mean, vegetarians, vegans, snout to tail eaters, they're all different degrees of sustainable eating, but I don't know if I could do it forever. What about you, Chelsea? Do you think you could eat snout to tail for the rest of your life?
Snout to tail, that is the entire animal, isn't it? It's everything.
Yep.
Literally snout to tail.
Yep.
I don't think I could do the funky things like the trotters or the tail, but someone mentioned earlier about eating the ears. Now, I'm not really partial to an ear, but I'd give it a try, but I can't guarantee I'd like it.
Okay, well, you might be interested in our last doco for tonight. Every Last Bite is a film that looks into the ever-expanding world of sustainable eating solutions. And Chelsea, I brought in a pig's ears salad to celebrate. One I prepared earlier.
Brilliant.
You said you'll give it a try.
You made it yourself. All right, well, I'll give it a bit. No. While I'm trying this, maybe we should just cut to the clip.
Let's do that.
Yeah, let's do that now.
By 2050, we're not going to have enough food in the world for us all to eat the way that we do today. If everyone, it's terrifying. If everyone ate the way that Victorians eat, we would need 4 planets. 4 planets to feed everybody. It's horrifying.
A vegan, I believe, is someone that doesn't eat anything that has anything to do with an animal, whether like milk, eggs.
No idea.
I have no idea what that is.
No.
And when you think of someone who is vegan, what do you picture?
Crazy.
Easy but be healthy.
Fit, maybe?
A normal person. I picture a normal person when I picture a vegan. Just, you know, they just don't eat meat, I guess.
I conjure up somebody that's anemic looking, quite thin, sickly looking.
It's true that if you're vegan, you need to be careful with your diet, but that's true of anyone in the world. Plenty of people out there eating meat who don't have a healthy diet. They probably need to look at their diet. We need to look at ours, and we do it really well. We're really healthy.
We look really healthy. Look at us. We're not pale and sickly.
There are other sustainable ways of eating, I suppose. Veganism is not one of them. It's a philosophy about not eating animal byproducts, which in modern days is physically impossible. At Josie Bones, we embrace the snout to tail philosophy because there's a couple of reasons. It's basically about respect for the animal. You know, if an animal's life has been taken for us to consume, you know, we should respect that and eat the entire thing. Snout to tail eating is basically the philosophy of eating the entire animal. It doesn't mean offal, it doesn't mean all the weird bits, it just means everything. So you're eating extremities, you're eating all the prime cuts and all the so-called secondary cuts.
Well, I'm a meat eater. I love meat. I wouldn't be able to live without meat, but I wouldn't be able to eat all the other bits like tails and hooves and heads. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to eat that.
People that say that snout to tail eating or offal or anything like that, say that it's gross, I would suggest that they've probably never tried it, or they've never tried it cooked properly. Anything can be gross. I could be more turned off by a badly cooked steak than I am, you know, a kidney if it's cooked well. It's all about, if something's well cooked, it's going to be good. And these people need to get over their preconceptions and just try it, because it's really, really tasty and it's respectful.
So, snout to tail eating, I think it's definitely, if people are going to eat meat, then it's definitely a way to improve the sustainability of their meat eating, and they should be forced to eat the lips and the arseholes and everything that's in with it.
Everybody should eat snout to tail. I mean, A, it's respect, but it means there's less waste. You know, people only eat certain cuts of meat, the so-called prime cuts, and if everybody either bought a whole carcass or part of a carcass and ate all the bits, it would reduce waste.
I think food wastage is an interesting area to focus on, but I think it's, in my view, I think it's misconceived. I do know, for example, that it isn't the case that prime cuts are used for human consumption and the rest of the animal is thrown away. I do know that the rest of animals are often reprocessed into animal feed. I know that they go into dog food, that sometimes they're fed to cows, and in fact the mad cow disease outbreak in the UK was a product of turning naturally herbivore animals into carnivorous animals.
The whole reason why we became vegan in the first place was really because we're ecologists, and we see firsthand the effects of grazing on especially Australian ecosystems. In Australia, we've lost a lot of biodiversity just from cattle grazing, which is like really extensive and affects like just most
of the continent.
Just seeing that firsthand, we just didn't want to be involved in that industry. We just didn't want to be eating like cows and sheep because we can see firsthand what they're doing to the environment.
For me personally, the thing that I'm most opposed to is factory farming and the way that we treat animals in factory farms in our society at the moment. Being vegetarian and being vegan is the easiest and the healthiest and the best way to get away from factory farming. Yeah.
That's a philosophy that is not very accurate. I mean, pig's bone, for example, is used in the hardening of car paint, so you can't travel in a car or a tram or anything like that. You know, pig bone is used in the refining of copper, so you can't use anything electronic.
I agree. I think that there isn't a human alive on Earth today that can say that they lead a 100% animal product-free lifestyle. That doesn't exist today, and it saddens me that that's the case. I don't think that that's a reason not to try.
Like, environmentally, I don't think you can be an environmentalist and still eat meat to some extent. Like, you have to face up to the facts that every time you eat meat, or you're using so many of our finite resources. So, yeah.
Well, I find it ridiculous that people think that you can be a meat-eating environmentalist. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. The UN has told us that, and several reports since 2010 have said the same thing.
It's all about balance, you know. We should eat, say, 1/3 meat and 2/3 fruit and veg. And if everybody had that kind of approach, it would be better, because land can't be sustained by cropping alone. It needs animals, and there needs to be constant crop rotation. So one kind of eating is not right. You can't be a carnivore, you can't be a vegetarian. There's no such thing as veganism. It's a combination of the whole thing. Omnivore.
It's much easier now. There's lots of places that cater for vegans. There are vegan-specific and vegetarian-specific places in Melbourne.
In the city, it's definitely a lot easier. I think it's becoming more common to see kind of vegan-friendly eateries, which is a good thing. Yeah.
But in Melbourne, you can get some really amazing meals. Like, I've just been having the best time being back here and just trying all these new restaurants and just eating really yummy food.
And there's 3 or 4 vegan restaurants in Melbourne that we haven't been to yet, and we're hunting them out all the time. So.
Yeah. We might get a little bit fat in the next couple of months because we're just like eating so much.
If I eat at home alone, I cook a really good meal and enjoy it with a glass of wine or beer just as much as I was with somebody, you know. It's about enjoying your interaction with the food, and it's really nice if you've got somebody with you.
If people are making an effort to really look around and see the impact that they're having environmentally and ethically on other beings, then that's all you can ask for, really.
Well, we've really had a smorgasbord of amazing stuff on tonight's program, both in film and in food. I must admit, Damo, those pig's ears actually weren't as bad as I expected.
Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed them. And I've enjoyed the program as well. We're going to see you later on in the series. But for now, it's been real.
Good night.
Catch ya. You really like those pig's ears?
Not really.